right. Today is going pretty good. Hope everybody's having a great day. Um, I did do found a job. I'm going tomorrow to see what it's all about. Um, it was okay, but it was a little sketchy. And when I called the guy, I called him and I said, "Hey, what is this job all about?" And he said, "Okay, it's a dollar. I think it's $1.50 per delivery in town, and it's I think it's $2.50 something like that for deliveries that are on the outskirts or whatever." So I said, "Okay," and I thought about it and I said, "Well, hang on, how close are these deliveries?" And he said, "Well, this, that, the other," and he kind of danced around it. So I called him back once, like a couple times. Then I found a job, same company, where the job description was a little bit more. It was a little bit more. It explained things a little bit more. So that was a little bit better. And finally, I called him or sent him a text back, and I said, "Look, if this is what I can do. I can do 8 hours a day or less at 160 a day, roughly, and local routes. But the other stuff, I said, I'm not doing. I'm not, going to be out here for 14 hours driving all across the state of Michigan, for $2, $2 per delivery. I'm just not doing that. That makes absolutely no sense. I mean, that's to me that's almost worse than doing Uber or Lyft. That's 25 an hour. So it just all depends. If you can do 3 trips, you're making about with them you're making about $8 a trip. But with them it's a little bit different because you get a request. You have a distance you have to drive to go get the customer. When you get to the customer's house, you got to wait on them. Customer comes out. You take the customer to where they're going. So, that's a little bit more than the package. You drive to the location, deliver the package, move on to the next one. It seems real simple, but I'm going to go in tomorrow. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I sent him that message, and he said, "Okay, when you want to start?" I said, "Okay, I'll come in tomorrow." Because I wanted to get that straightened out because these days, people are trying to have you doing these weird schedules, and ripping and running for 50 cents, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, $2 is kind of it's it's still real shaky, but if it's $2 a delivery, and I told him 160 because they say 160 to 320. I don't really believe in the 320 yet because I haven't done the job, but the 160 I'm good with. That's fair enough for me that's fair enough for me as an income coming in for the work that I'm doing. And I'm using my car. I don't have to deal with other employees or bosses, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if I look at it that way, then, excuse me, I seem like my voice is going. But if I look at it that way, then it seems like a pretty decent, a pretty decent a pretty decent deal. But I had to look at it that way because it wasn't, it definitely wasn't something it really wasn't something that I had planned on doing. I just happened to see it, and he was the first one hitting me back. And so I was like, okay, this is decent. This is something that I can. This is something that I can do, and I can use to support my whole thing that's going on. Because you know what, I don't need a lot of money. I really don't. It's just that simple. All I really need is just the $1,000, $700 to $1,000 a week, and I'm good. Enough to pay my bills, and I don't have to deal with all the stupid antics of going to work. I don't have to, play the game of who's the best, at whatever. I'm too old to play them games. So, therefore, if all I have to do is deliver, and we'll see, I'm going in tomorrow, then we'll see. And, man, my voice is, I don't know why my throat is all scratchy and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's crazy. It's kind of getting on my nerves a little bit. But if that's all I have to do is that, then I'm good with that. I don't have an issue with that. I use my car, go out, do my 8 hours, and I'm done. But I will reaffirm them tomorrow and say, when I talked to the guy yesterday, I said 8 hours, 160 local. If we're doing that, we good. If not, I'm going back home. It's up to you if you want to accept it. If not, that's cool. Whoever wanna go, drive 2 hours to make $2, let them. That's up to them. But from what he said okay. So I was like, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. So that's the current situation right now. And I think it's okay because it'll break the boredom of sitting around this house and waiting on Amazon, who I don't know what they doing. I really don't. I never knew it could be this difficult to get in Amazon. I'd been fooling with them, and they blew up my phone to go to an interview. 3 days in a row. You going to an interview? You going to an interview? You going to the interview? So I said, yeah, get you the interview, do the interview, and nothing. Called them back twice. Then they replied, hey, we will we'll look into that, and nothing. So I'm like, you know what? It's time to it's time you gotta kind of keep your eyes open, keep applying, and kind of judge between the best offers that are coming in. So that's the situation right now, and like I said, I'm doing episodes every day, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll definitely keep you guys posted, and and up on what's going on. And once again, I apologize for my voice. I don't know what's going on. My voice is all scratchy and constantly clearing my throat and all kinds of stuff. It's I would go hoarse right before I go to a job interview. Been good all this time when I'm sitting around the house, but go figure. All right. Have a good one. And that was a narrative of my mindset.